This is the Radically Realistic Podcast. I'm Susanna LaPointe, a 14-year personal training and nutrition coaching veteran. My wellness coaching practice incorporates strength, nutrition, and self-care. Because while fitness and nutrition are very important, they are just the tip of the iceberg as far as taking really amazing care of ourselves goes. So I incorporate all other types of self-care practices into my coaching as well. I call this podcast Radically Realistic because when it comes to implementing sustainable habits and practices to improve ourselves or our lives, they must be realistic and they must fit into our current lives. Otherwise, they won't stick. And then what even is the point? Join me each week as we explore another aspect of taking amazing care of ourselves through a lens of being super realistic about what we can and will actually fit into our lives. Let's get started with today's show. Hello, beautiful people. I'm back. I took a couple of weeks off and went to Kauai with my husband to celebrate our 20th anniversary. We had a great time, had a much needed break, and now I'm rejuvenated and ready to get back at it. Today's episode will not resonate with everyone, and that is totally okay. But who it does resonate with is who I want to talk directly to. Because this is a super juicy topic and one that can cause a lot of stress and anxiety in our lives. I'm talking to you. If you've ever been on a diet, if you've ever been obsessed with food in some way, if you've ever counted, tracked, or journaled your food obsessively, if you've ever researched the, quote, perfect, quote, way to eat, if you've ever been caught in the deprive then binge cycle, I am talking to you. If you've ever eaten, quote, perfectly, quote, over the week, only to mess up on the weekend, over and over again. If you've ever beaten yourself up over what you've eaten, or how you've eaten, or how much you've eaten. If you've ever noticed that you're thinking about food all the time. If you've ever felt guilt or shame over food choices. If you've ever spent days, weeks, months, or years of your life trying to find a way of eating that allows you complete freedom, but never finding it, I am talking to you. This was me. For 11 years, I struggled so hard with food obsession. Today, I'm going to tell my story from food freedom, where I didn't have any awareness about nutrition at all, back several years ago, into a deep, dark struggle with disordered eating and a full-blown eating disorder, and then back out again into pure, educated food freedom, where I am now. It has been an amazing journey, one with experience I wouldn't trade. But man, when you are in it, it is a dark, dark place. Here we go. I never intentionally exercised a day in my life until after I had my second son at 24 years of age. Never thought once about food, didn't know anything about nutrition, never gave it a second thought. I ate when I was hungry, I probably stopped when I was full, and I didn't invest one single ounce of energy into it. Until one day I did. A few months after I had my second son, I decided to get in shape. So I joined an all-women's gym and started walking on the treadmill. While I was there, one day, I picked up a copy of Women's Muscle and Fitness magazine and saw, for the first time ever, pictures of women with muscle. Growing up, I truly did not even know that existed. I followed the strength training routines in the magazine and basically taught myself how to lift weights. And after a while, a few months probably, I decided to level myself up a bit and join Gold's Gym. So this was in Orange County, California, so you can imagine how that went. There were beautiful people everywhere and so many women with gorgeous physiques. Literally had never seen this before. Over the months, I became more and more obsessed with becoming one of them. And I stumbled across the book, The Eat Clean Diet by Tosca Reno. This was my first foray into dieting, and this was probably in late 2006, early 2007, I think. This is actually, this way of eating, the Eat Clean diet, now looking back at it, is actually a very healthy and balanced way of eating, but it started turning the restriction wheels in my head. The more I cut out of my life, food-wise, the better results I got. And because of my age, which was my mid-20s, and the fact that I was new to strength training and working out in general, I got results very fast. I leaned down to about 9% body fat and paraded myself around the gym, so proud of myself and my discipline. I worked out twice a day, taking my poor young children to the gym's daycare with me twice a day so I could go kill myself with exercise and then go home and eat perfectly. The results were addictive, and I decided that I wanted to become a personal trainer so I could help others achieve the amazing results that I did. So I got my NASM certification, and everything was great until it wasn't. Because of the 2007-2008 recession, we were sort of forced to move out of Southern California, and we moved to Bend, Oregon, where life was cheaper. Rent was cheaper there, so that's why we moved there. But it became expensive very quickly because we were financially extremely vulnerable. My husband didn't have a job, and I carried a lot of stress from that, which I think is probably kind of what started this whole trajectory. But I got my first personal training job at a gym there and continued to work out excessively and focus a large percentage of my efforts on eating perfectly. And after a couple months, with the stress of our financial situation and just the stress of everything, I noticed that I was starting to binge. And I didn't have a name for it at that time. Didn't really know what was going on. I just knew, I remember the very first thing I did was eat way too much bread at one time. I think I was making soup, and I just remember this paper bread bag, and I remember going back to it time after time and just getting more bread and more bread, more than a normal person would eat. And it was I remember it being sort of a thing in my head. It was okay, this is weird. Didn't think too much of it, but I went, to the next morning, went back to my non-fat egg whites and veggies, and but the binge episodes became more and more frequent. And in response to that, I kept tightening up my nutrition. So this is where the deprive then binge cycle started. If I had had a coach back then, it could have been stopped at that point. If I had been educated on the fact that the deprivation was what was causing the binging, the amount of time I spent in this hell could have been shortened by a lot. But I didn't know. I thought there was something wrong with me. Why couldn't I stop eating so much? Okay, so this is where it got really bad. It escalated to the point that I was eating several bowls of cereal after a meal and then purging it back out again. I'm not going to go into the details on that, but I was training clients at that time, helping them with their nutrition, severely restricting my own food, which caused huge compensatory binges. I started obsessively researching different ways of eating, and at the time I would have said I was educating myself, but I was, in fact, obsessively dieting. I developed full-blown bulimia for about 3 years, and then finally managed to climb out of that hole, but was still dieting and obsessing over food for many years after that. I dove headlong into a paleo diet for several years, cutting out all forms of sugar, gluten, dairy, soy, absolutely anything that anyone said was unhealthy or inflammatory, only to binge on these items when no one was looking. For years, I, quote, didn't eat, quote, bread or sugar or dairy, but I would totally binge on it. You can imagine the mental anguish this would cause. I tried a vegan diet, and then that went into an all-fruit diet. This is freaking crazy. All-fruit diet where I was crazy enough to bring a case of bananas on a week-long rafting trip because I was only eating fruit at that time. I made my husband literally strap a case of bananas onto the side of our boat. Of course, they all went bad, and I ended up eating and binging on real food. I tried a keto diet, forcing myself into extreme carb restriction, of course only to binge my face off at any chance I got. I was frantically searching for anything that would help me stop binging. I had no idea that the restriction was what was causing the binging. because the degree to which you restrict is the degree to which you will binge. And I was the queen of restriction. I made myself elaborate meal plans that included no pleasure and no joy and no satisfaction. And of course, I couldn't stick with them. In all my self-righteousness, I prided myself on whatever I wasn't eating for years, but the guilt and extreme shame the binging caused really, really fucked with my brain. This cycle went on for like 11 years. You guys, I spent a decade of my life restricting and binging and obsessing over food. A couple years ago, I finally threw in the towel. I could not keep doing this. So I bought Jill Coleman's Food Obsession Bootcamp program that she offered at the time, which taught her Moderation365 principles. She had gone through this too, the binging and restricting for super long time, and she turned her process into an education, which I'm super grateful for. Over time, I slowly started to release my death grip that I had on food and started evening out the highs and lows. The all or nothing dieting was not working. And the entire premise of Moderation365 is to, in quotes here, navigate the middle between extreme dieting and eating whatever you want, and focus on being satisfied but not stuffed every time you eat. This is a hard concept to swallow, giving up the control I falsely thought I had, but I didn't have a choice. My mental health was suffering because of the food obsession, and I had to find another way. I have now been practicing Moderation365 for about 2 years, and I've never felt more free and satisfied around food. I'm not kidding when I say I never think about food anymore. A stark change from where I was, except to figure out like what's for dinner, like everyone else does. I so much believe in the principles of this program that I was 1,000% thrilled when she offered a certification in this concept, because I have been wanting to use the principles in my own coaching, but it was Jill's intellectual property, so I didn't. But now I can, which in hindsight is perfect timing, because I have been able to practice this for so long now that it's much more natural than it came to me at first. So the concepts of Moderation 365 are centered around mindfulness, which is the exact opposite of dieting and then binging. When we diet and follow someone else's food lists, meal plans, and eating schedule, we take our own personal preferences, our satisfaction, and our brain out of the equation. Dieting makes us dumber. It takes us out of our bodies, and we blindly follow what someone else tells us to do. Moderation365, however, takes our personal preferences, which are, in fact, very important, our own unique biofeedback, and our hunger and fullness signals into consideration so we can make the right choice, a healthy choice for ourselves every time we sit down to eat. It teaches us to identify and honor our hunger and fullness signals, and most importantly, this is the most important piece of it, puts satisfaction as top priority. This is a food relationship course. It is not a diet. So yes, you can lose weight eating moderately. And yes, you can go to social events, happy hours, on vacation, everything that you want to do while eating and drinking moderately. And let me tell you, it is way, way better than the constant obsession that comes from constant dieting. Some of you may have seen, I documented a lot of my moderate choices on my vacation on my Moderation365 coach Instagram page. I didn't feel deprived one time, but I also never overindulged. I felt good the entire time and didn't stress or think about food in an obsessive way once. This is such a difference from the days when I would binge regularly, especially on vacation, and that shame spiral is no joke. It really fucks with you. If you know, you know. Anyways, I don't normally buy into other people's programs, especially diets now, but this program changed my life 4,000% for the better. And for the right person, I know that it can change your life too. So that's why I'm becoming certified in this exact framework, because I believe in it so much, and I want to help as many people as possible find their way out of this special kind of hell that is called food obsession. Obsessing over food steals our precious life from us. Like I said, it stole over a decade of my life from me. Diet culture is a bitch, and I want to help as many women as I can find their way out and never to go back in. I'm actually looking for some beta testers for this program. I'm halfway through this certification, and in order to be fully certified, I need to work with a few people as my clients at a discounted rate in exchange for honest feedback. I'm 100% invested in helping anyone who struggles with food and dieting and deprivation and binging in this way. My whole heart is in this because I know the suffering that is involved in constantly obsessing over food and nutrition rules. So if you are listening to this around the time that it airs, which is the beginning of April 2021, and you are interested in chatting with me about this and possibly becoming one of my beta testers, please reach out to me at any of the links in the show notes below. You can contact me through Instagram or Facebook, you can email me, or you can go to my website and schedule a discovery call with me. If you are listening to this well after the fact, but it resonates with you, I will be certified here shortly. And I would love to work with you on this if you are feeling consumed by food obsession. Believe me when I say that I truly hate what diet culture has done to us. It has robbed us of ourselves in so many ways. It has reduced us down to how well we can follow a plan that is not actually made for us. Then makes us feel stupid for not being able to stick with it. I want to help you out of this vicious cycle. If any of this resonates with you, please reach out. I can't even tell you enough how passionate I am about this and how thrilled I am that Jill made this into a certification so I could use her principles because they are so helpful in overcoming this problem. Again, if you know, you know. If you don't struggle with this, then it won't even make sense. But if you struggle with food obsession and you've been spending hours, days of your life researching and trying to find a way out of this awful cycle, I really, really want to help you. I really wish I had had a coach back then. It would have made this whole process, I would have saved years of my life, literally. Like years of my life that I spent obsessing, I would have saved those. And obviously everything happens, I believe, for a reason. I mean, I'm obviously so happy I went through this so I can know and understand this awful obsession that people can get into because I struggle with it firsthand. But just know that if you're in this place right now, I want to help you be free. I want to help you discover food freedom. Food freedom is literally, after being in jail, food jail for 10, 11 years, food freedom is literally like a gift. It's like Christmas every single day to not be obsessed and just eat what you want and make moderate choices. And like, obviously my body did not blow up. I was afraid it would, and it didn't change at all. So going from like kind of a binging to depriving cycle, going from that to evening out everything, it doesn't change the calorie amount a lot. It evens it out instead of like low calories, high calories, low calories, high calories. It just evens it out to a kind of an even playing field over time. And so nothing really happens physique wise. It just is such a relief in your brain. So anyways, I hope you can pick up on my passion with this. I feel so passionately about this. I just want to help people out of this awful life that is food obsession. So if that's you, please reach out. I would love to chat with you. Even if you're not interested in coaching, if you just want to talk, I would be happy to talk with you. I wish I had had somebody to talk to when I was in it, and that's what I want to be to anybody who is in this place. I would love to talk to you. Okay, that's it for me today. Thank you for joining me, and I will be back next week with another episode. I hope you have a great week, and I will talk to you next week. Bye!